Yes.
Yeah? Great. All right. So, Ruben, you made a wonderful intro of me, so I will not repeat that. But I'm half French, half German, and German-French entrepreneur. As I mentioned, co-founder of Biotech, and now preparing my second venture. And since I'm really a child and then a little, I've always been very entrepreneurial. And so I've always loved to build things. And for example, at 11, I started building my first kind of business. I was buying some Didal papers, if some of you know that, with the mouse, in Germany when I was on holidays, and I was selling it in France because it was rare and was not the same ones. And that's kind of the first business, and I ended up starting 5 other gigs until I was 20. And I just love the spirit of building and bringing things together. And at the same time, I'm just extremely curious as well. And that's what brought me to bio and biotech. My dad was a microbiome researcher at INRA in France before microbiome even really existed. And he has been talking to me about bacteria since I'm 5. And so this really gives me this curiosity and this passion for biology and biotech in general. And so I ended up studying, as you mentioned, biotech or bioengineering in Paris, finished in the US. And during my studies was one of my best friends and student at Biotech. We were very frustrated on how we could read about the industry, the biotech industry. It was mostly paper magazines or like websites that were not really well done or super premium. And so thought, okay, let's start a blog about biotech in France. It was a very entrepreneurial project, but was actually not meant to be a company. It was actually a nonprofit. We thought, okay, we could try that. We have some time as students, so let's do it. And maybe it will get us a good internship. It will get us some knowledge and some networking. Ultimately, it became much bigger than expected. When I was finishing my studies in Boston, my co-founder was in Heidelberg, and the platform we have built was the biggest blog in France. We had a documentary. We had made a documentary movie, actually a Tour de France. We're on a bike of the biotech company in France and published this documentary, and it got really good traction. And so I thought, okay, can we do something out of this project? And is there a place to build a company out of it? And funnily, I've always told myself I will build a business until I'm 30. I'm still not 30, but I've built this first business, Biotech, basically 5 days after graduating. I was not even 23, and we just gave it a shot. It was very, very complicated decision. I mean, big life decision of finishing your studies. Where do you want to work? You're 22. I've never actually worked on a full-time contract in my life. we had no idea of what we're doing, but deep down, I don't know, we had this feeling of like, it's worth trying. Worst case, it doesn't work, and we take a job afterwards. And so we tried it, basically moved to Berlin to do that for 18 months unpaid, and then raised the first round. And then, as you mentioned, Hendrik, now it's the leading digital media platform for the biotech industry in Europe, 200,000 readers, profitable business, 10 full-time employees. So really, really great, actually a great platform we've built, delivering a lot of value, and you can all check it out. And I think it can be helpful for all of you. And now I stepped down operationally from the company in June 2019, and I'm preparing my second venture at the moment. So that's why it's a little number 2. And I'm looking to build a biotech venture with a scientific co-founder. So if some of you in the audiences are entrepreneurs or feel like you want to explore it with me, please feel free to reach out. All right, on entrepreneurial spirits, first I like this quote a lot from Reid Hoffman. An entrepreneur is someone who jumps off a cliff and builds a plane on the way down. And I think it encompasses a lot of what an entrepreneur is about. And there's a lot about risk-taking, not knowing exactly where you're going, and then figuring things out. But to start with, I like to talk on what entrepreneurial spirit is not. And actually, it's not about being cool. Even though right now entrepreneurship is cool, you hear it, it comes more in the general media. You have some movies about it, but it's not a goal in itself. There's way more deep reasons to be an entrepreneur. and cool is not one. Another one that's not is financial gain. Actually, in average, you will earn less by building companies than if you take a corporate job. You have a Harvard Business Review study on that. And most of entrepreneurs will not do it for the money. And even the ones that do it really big, we talk to them, they actually don't really care about the money and usually don't even spend it. Let's say it's not about independence. Like this myth that being an entrepreneur, building a company, you have a lot of freedom and you can do whatever you want and you are your own boss. It's not really true. Like actually, once you have a team, the level of responsibility is just huge, and you have investors you need to report to, and so you're not that independent and probably less than if you take a job. And finally, it's not easy. Building a company is really, really, really hard. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of sweat, a lot of sacrifices, and also a lot of luck. So what you've seen, maybe for some of you who have seen the social network, that's not reality. It's just really, really hard, and probably one of the hardest things you can do in your professional career. Now, what entrepreneurial spirit is about. It's really about building things. I think this is what I mentioned, this love to build things, to bring things together, to expressing your own creativity, to bringing things together, and not just in a for-profit setting. Can be in a non-profit setting, like what you're doing with this event, can be more in an artistic way, can be in many, many ways. And it's really this passion for building things. Two, on solving a problem. I think really it's about you see something that doesn't work, that just pisses you off, and you want to solve it. And there's just so many problems out there that humanity is facing. We're seeing it with COVID. It's pretty big. Infectious disease is a pretty big problem. It's still not solved, but you have so many more problems to solve. And the good thing with bio is that you tend to solve deeper problems and bigger problems. At least you have the potential to solve bigger problems. Entrepreneurial spirit is really about passion. Like you need to love the work you're doing, either the field you're in or the work itself, but you need to love it. It's so hard that if you're not passionate about what you're doing, it's almost impossible to make it. And it's about impact. It's really about being useful for society, about having an impact on the people you work with, whether it's internet team or your clients or people you work with. And also it's about optimizing the impact you have yourself, your time, how much impact you have on your time. And then again, bio has a huge potential for impact. That is our ambition. It's really our dreaming big, dream that you can, like this is a typical saying from Silicon Valley, change the world. There is some part of true in entrepreneurial spirit. You believe in something big and you believe you can reach it. So intellectual challenge. It's really about, actually, it's a good thing of why it's so hard. It makes it also very interesting and intellectually challenging. And actually for myself, it's one of my main drivers. I have 3 main drivers, and that's one of them for the next company or in my career in general. I just need this intellectual challenge. And so it's one reason to start another business is I will obtain that. Last but not least is risk-taking. That's what Reed was mentioning. Really jumping off a cliff and building a plane just sounds completely crazy. But it is part of that, which is true. I mean, when we started Biotech in Berlin, we had literally nothing, no ID, no salary, nothing. And it's about enjoying this journey, taking risks, enjoying the adrenaline. And the good thing about Europe is that the security net you have with social security and everything is just very high. So even if you fail your company, actually the risk you're really taking is way lower than in other countries like the US, where if you are taking too big a risk, you can be in very deep trouble. And one important thing about entrepreneurial spirit, I think what is sometimes not really clear is that I think it's independent of the hard skills. Scientists, designer, business, commercial people, everyone can have this entrepreneur or should have this entrepreneur spirit if they want to start a company. And it's true that business people tend to be a bit more entrepreneurial, but it's not necessarily a fact. And so in my search for next co-founder, I'm really looking for this entrepreneurial spirit in the scientist. And it's where most of my discussion stops. People are super good in science, but are not that good in entrepreneurial spirit and what I just mentioned before. Now, Nico asked me to talk about entrepreneurial spirit in Germany. And what I would say about Germans in general tend to be more conservative. An example is if you look at the electric Golf versus a Tesla, the Golf is like very incremental innovation, step by step. You cannot even recognize that it's an electric car versus a Tesla where it's completely different, already self-driving and very disruptive. And so it's just an example to compare German innovation in general versus California, which is probably the hotbed for disruptive innovation. And when you adapt that to life sciences, the result that in Germany, in general, life science industry will take a bit less risk in behavior. And this leads to a very strong tools, diagnostic system, and also conservative, more conservative drug development, for example, in the antibody or small molecule space, versus very loon shots like gene therapy or cell therapy, which is not very developed in Germany. And in general, disruptive innovation is just less plannable. And as some of you know, if you're German or not, Germans just love to make plans. And this is just a bit less compatible with disruptive innovation. But it's very good when you have a plan and then you execute it well. And that's what Germany is about. It's just really good at execution, has also a very solid industry in general, and really good academic science. And the good news is that Europe can help to solve part of the entrepreneurial spirit. And it's really about bringing the best and the different cultures together. And this can be a chance. For example, if you bring a French or British who tend to be a bit more creative, stylish, and risk-taking, with a German efficiency, the result can be really powerful. And as an example, in Biotech, we would always hire very diverse and also very diverse from origins. And this would really bring all the benefits together. All right, and now quickly, just entrepreneurial spirit applied to bio. I have three main things that are quite different from other entrepreneurial spirit. One is about IP and patents. Usually the technical barrier is higher in SynBio for sure, but you have also some niches where you can manage without IP. Typically, Biotech was a good example. You are still in the biotech space, but you don't need IP to get started. Event organization is another one. Public relation, human resources, or some kind of tools can be some others. Two is about money. Obviously, doing biotech is just super expensive. Doing application of biotech is super expensive. But the good news is that there's never been as much financing in Europe or in Germany for biotech than ever. And so that's a big chance. And finally, the third thing, which has not to be underestimated, and I think it's the main problem, is about the people. Deep down, even if you do biotech, people is the most important things in the company. And that's where in Europe, we lack of really good entrepreneurs, good scientific entrepreneurs, and this would be this needs to be fixed. I'll just go quickly through three inspiring biotech entrepreneurs that are really great. One is Herbert and Bob Swanson, so the founders of Genentech, who really started the whole biotech industry in the late 70s. And there's an amazing book called Genentech, The Beginning of Biotech, which I can highly recommend to you to get a better context. In Germany, I think Ingmar Hoerr is one of my favorite biotech entrepreneurs in Germany, now with Curevac, very well known now with COVID, but he really founded it out of his academic PhD or postdoc, and really in a garage for 20 years and building this amazing company now. A good example in SynBio is from Paris DNA Script, the three founders, so Thomas, Xavier, and Sylvain, bringing enzymatic DNA synthesis on your bench. They're building an amazing venture, have raised a great amount of money and developing super fast. And they really started on Google trying to find what kind of enzyme could work. Overall, I'll just finish on that. I think we need more entrepreneurial spirit in bio. And I think all of you can help bring that. And so just trust your gut or your microbiome, dream big, and be more entrepreneurial. Thank you.